Hey you, yes you, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? Drop it in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now let's get into tonight's true crime case. So don't forget subscribe this channel and turn on notification. Story 1. The air felt unusually thick when I arrived in Ponson. October had draped the town in a strange kind of silence, the kind that seemed to hold its breath. The rice fields stretched endlessly on both sides of the road, their stalks swaying as if whispering secrets to the wind. I had come seeking calm, hoping the countryside would offer a retreat from the noise of the world. But there was something off-kilter about the town. The bridge over the Artibonite River loomed quietly ahead. Its arches were old but strong, etched with the marks of time. Beneath it, the waters moved slowly, their surface a smooth sheet of glass reflecting the overcast sky. A flock of birds burst from the trees suddenly, scattering into the distance, and I instinctively glanced behind me. Nothing. The townspeople, few and far between, walked with downcast eyes and brisk steps. They didn't acknowledge my presence. Their silence wasn't rude, it felt more like fear. I felt it too, though I didn't know why. My guest house stood near the marketplace, a simple structure with chipped blue paint and the smell of old wood. I unpacked quickly and wandered out before sunset, compelled to learn why this place felt like it was hiding something. As I crossed through the town square, I noticed wilted flowers placed in a circle near the old chapel. A rusted lantern hung beside the door, swinging slightly even though there was no breeze. There was a feeling, unexplainable yet undeniable, that something had happened here recently, something the town wished to forget. That night, sleep evaded me. The ceiling fan creaked with each slow rotation, casting shadows that spun across the walls like moving vines. Outside, the sounds of night creatures echoed faintly, crickets, owls, and an occasional rustle of leaves. But even those natural sounds seemed strained, as though muffled beneath something deeper and heavier. At some point past midnight, I rose from the bed and stepped out onto the balcony. The sky was painted in deep indigo, clouded but starless. The town looked asleep, windows shut tight, lights extinguished early. Yet, across the fields, I saw faint glimmers near the chapel. Tiny, flickering lights that came and went like fireflies. I watched them with growing unease, unable to look away. The next morning, I returned to the chapel. The air around it was colder than the rest of the village. The circle of wilted flowers remained untouched. There were symbols etched into the stone around the church's foundation. Faint, almost erased by time, yet oddly deliberate. They didn't seem religious, more like protective marks or warnings. A strange sensation crawled up my spine. It was as if the earth here remembered something it wished to forget. Behind the chapel, I discovered a narrow path overgrown with weeds. I followed it, drawn forward by some unknown instinct. It led me to a grove of trees, their branches tangled like clasped hands. There, at the base of a towering kapok tree, I found remnants of something old. Candles melted into the ground, a broken mask, and a pile of stones stacked carefully like a shrine. I reached out to touch the stones, and just then, a gust of wind passed through the grove. The trees didn't move, but I felt it cold, swift, and deliberate, the kind of wind that feels like a presence. The day grew heavier as I made my way back to the main road. A sense of weight settled on my shoulders, not physical, but deeply emotional, as though the trees themselves had whispered something into my bones. The villagers continued their daily tasks, but I noticed how they avoided the grove. Their gazes never drifted in its direction. Back in my room, I found a folded slip of paper tucked beneath my door. No name, no writing, just a symbol. It matched one of the faded markings from the chapel's stones. I traced its outline with my finger, a circle intersected by two crescent shapes. It meant nothing to me, but the sight of it quickened my pulse. Later that afternoon, the sky began to dim unexpectedly. Thick clouds rolled in from the mountains, cloaking the town in a premature twilight. Thunder rumbled in the distance, but no rain came. I stepped outside once more, following the pull of something I could not name. My feet led me back to the old path, past the chapel, and toward the rice fields now bathed in an eerie golden light. As I walked, the silence deepened. No wind moved the stalks. No birds flew overhead. I had the odd sensation of being watched, not with malice, but with sorrow, like a presence longing to be remembered. In the middle of the field stood a single tree, out of place, bent and dry, though it bore no leaves. Around its roots, the ground had been disturbed. Not recently, but long enough ago that the grass refused to grow back. Something had happened here, and suddenly I understood. The story of Ponsonde was not one of violence, but of something sacred, disturbed and forgotten. The so-called massacre was not a bloodbath, but a deep rupture in the spirit of the place. As night returned, I remained in the field. The stillness around the tree was complete, almost holy. The light had faded, but I felt no fear, only reverence. The earth here hummed faintly, as if remembering an old rhythm. I knelt beside the bare patch, brushing my hand over the soil. It was soft and warm, like it had been touched by something beyond the weather. In the distance, faint drums began to echo. Not loud, not alarming, more like heartbeats, pulsing from the hills. They weren't mechanical or planned. They felt ancient, natural. The rhythm was uneven, but it stirred something deep inside me, as if awakening an instinct long forgotten. I sat in silence, letting it wash over me. Visions crept into my mind, uninvited but vivid. Faces not frightened, but solemn. A gathering not of grief, but of farewell. Flames in the night, voices lifted in unity, not fear. The tree had witnessed a parting, not an attack. This place had seen a ritual, a transformation. I realized then that the term massacre might have been a misunderstanding, passed down by those who didn't know what they had witnessed. What the village had experienced was a moment of spiritual magnitude, an old rite, perhaps misinterpreted or silenced over generations. The silence in Ponsonde wasn't born of horror, but of reverence, maybe even guilt. I left the field slowly, feeling as if I had trespassed somewhere sacred. But something had changed within me. I could not unsee the images, nor unfeel the weight they carried. Back at the guest house, I lit a candle and placed the strange symbol beside it. The flickering flame caught the curves of the mark, casting shadows across the wall. I sat there, quietly, letting the memory of the field settle. The morning after, the village seemed lighter. The clouds had lifted, and the market stirred with cautious energy. Children chased one another near the river, and for the first time since I had arrived, I heard laughter, soft, hesitant, but real. The breeze returned, brushing gently across the rooftops as if clearing away a long-held burden. I wandered once more through the narrow paths, past the chapel and the silent fields. The old symbols on the stone appeared clearer now, no longer just marks but part of a language I was beginning to understand. The town was not trying to forget. They were guarding something, preserving it quietly, with care. Before leaving, I returned to the grove one last time. The stacked stones at the shrine remained untouched. I placed the folded paper with the symbol at its base, adding nothing more. Just a gesture, a silent acknowledgement. Then I turned back toward the road, toward the bridge that had first welcomed me. Crossing it again, I glanced down at the river below, its waters flowing gently, as they always had, carrying with them whatever stories the town chose not to tell. Ponsonde had given me no answers, only reflections. What I had thought was a tale of horror had unfolded as something far more complex, a misunderstood echo of ancient memory, reverence, and change. The word massacre no longer fit. What had happened here was neither cruel nor senseless. It was transformation, buried beneath silence and time. As I walked away from the village, I carried with me a quiet understanding. Not all stories need to be explained. Some are meant to be felt, like music heard only once, or wind passing through trees that remember. Story 2. When I arrived in Lusakisiki that October, the winds carried the scent of the sea and something older, something rooted deep in the soil. The coastal town was surrounded by rolling hills, patches of forest, and narrow roads that twisted like ribbons through the landscape. I had come seeking quiet, but the town felt paused, as if holding its breath. Everywhere I looked, there was stillness. The main street was lined with shuttered windows and painted signs faded by years of sun and rain. The people moved gently, carefully, like dancers in a delicate routine. I noticed how they looked over their shoulders, how they lingered only briefly in public places before retreating indoors. The guest house I stayed in was a small, humble building near the edge of town. My room overlooked a wide valley where the earth dipped and then rose again toward a distant ridge. It was beautiful, hauntingly so, but the silence here was not peaceful. It felt dense, as though it carried weight. On my second day, I explored a nearby hillside. From its summit, I could see the town stretch beneath me, rooftops glinting in the sun. I noticed a large structure at the edge of the valley, an old community hall, its windows boarded and its yard overgrown with grass. Something about it drew my gaze again and again. It was the only place that didn't seem to fit. That night, the wind picked up. My window shutters clattered softly, and the trees swayed in rhythm with something I couldn't hear. I felt it then, an invisible tension, like a memory woven into the air itself. Something had happened here, something unspoken. The following morning, I walked to the old hall. The path leading there was cracked and worn, lined with tall weeds and rusted wire fencing. The building stood quiet, but not forgotten. On its walls, faint murals had faded, scenes of joy, dancing, gathering, the kind of images that spoke of unity. But now they were ghost-like, barely clinging to the peeling paint. I circled the hall slowly. Its doors were locked and the windows sealed, yet the space around it whispered with memory. I stood still, listening not to sound but to feeling. It was as if the ground remembered what people would not say. Behind the building, I found a tree with low branches, shaped by the wind and years. Beneath it lay a scattering of smooth stones arranged in a wide circle. Some were painted with symbols, others carved with names I didn't recognize. It felt like a quiet place of remembering, unmarked by plaque or sign, but clearly sacred. A sudden breeze brushed my face, and with it came the scent of rain, though the sky remained clear. I sat on a nearby rock and closed my eyes, and in that moment, I could almost sense the echo of voices, the rise and fall of breath, the hush that follows something unthinkable, but not in fear, more in mourning. As I returned to the path, I saw that the grass bent gently behind me, as if the earth acknowledged my visit. The silence in Lusakisiki, I began to understand, was not just grief. It was protection, of memory, of pain, of healing. Back at the guest house, I wrote in my notebook without really knowing what I was saying. It was as though the words were not mine but belonged to the town. The pages filled slowly, quietly, with thoughts I hadn't known were there. That evening, the sunset painted the sky in deep shades of amber and rose, casting long shadows across the valley. I stood on the porch of the guest house, watching as light faded from the rooftops and the hills turned to silhouettes. It was a beautiful kind of quiet, but layered with something else, something older than fear. As darkness settled, lights in the town came on slowly and sporadically. Some homes remained dark, their windows like closed eyes. I could feel the shape of an absence here, not just of people, but of a moment in time that had left its mark without explanation. I walked once more toward the center of town, passing familiar corners that now felt different. I stopped at the small park, where benches sat unused beneath jacaranda trees. The ground here was clean, but still carried a hush. I knelt beside a stone near the base of one tree. No plaque, no flowers, just a stone worn smooth by touch or time. I rested my hand on it without knowing why. Back at the community hall, I saw a candle flickering faintly behind one of the boarded windows. It didn't seem accidental. Someone had been there. Perhaps someone still returned, quietly, to keep the memory warm. It struck me then that what had happened here was not lost. It lived in the silence, in the way the people walked, in the way the town had rearranged itself around a moment it couldn't fully speak about. And yet it endured, with care, with dignity. There were no headlines or plaques, no markers of tragedy in bold letters. But the town remembered in its own language, through silence, through shadow, through small acts of tending spaces left behind. The following morning, a soft mist clung to the hills and fields, blurring the edges of the world like a gentle veil. I set out early, retracing steps along the winding paths that curved around the valley. The town seemed to breathe beneath the mist, its rhythms quiet but present. Near the community hall, I found a small group gathered, older women and men, their faces calm, their movements slow and deliberate. They tended to the stones beneath the tree, cleaning and rearranging them with care. Though I didn't approach, I watched from a distance, feeling the reverence in their actions. It was clear that these stones were more than markers. They were symbols of connection, each one placed with intention, a piece of a story shared without words. I felt humbled, witnessing a community weaving memory into the very land they walked. Later, I wandered toward the river where children played near the water's edge. Their laughter was light, carrying hope forward despite the weight of the past. Watching them, I understood that life in Lusakisiki moved between shadows and light, a balance held with quiet strength. Returning to the guest house, I reflected on what I had seen and felt. The event that had touched this town was not defined by violence alone, but by how a community chose to live afterward, how it chose to remember, heal, and move forward together. There was power in that choice, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, resilience can bloom quietly, carried in the hearts of those who remain. The day I left Lusakisiki, the sun broke fully through the morning mist, casting warm light over the valley and the sea beyond. The town was waking slowly, its streets beginning to hum with the rhythm of everyday life once again. I paused on the edge of town, looking back toward the hills and the community hall with its silent stones. The memory of the place felt alive beneath my feet, a living pulse beneath the earth. It was not a place marked by tragedy alone, but by the strength of remembrance and quiet hope. As I walked away, I carried with me the sense of a story unspoken but deeply felt, a story of endurance, of a community bound together by shared loss and healing. Lusakisiki had shown me that sometimes the most profound moments are not shouted from rooftops, but held in silence, tended carefully like a fragile flame. I knew I would carry that silence with me, a reminder of the power of memory and the resilience found in the spaces between words. Story 3. October in Jaffa arrived with the golden light of early autumn, casting long shadows over the ancient port city. The salty breeze from the Mediterranean whispered through narrow streets lined with stone buildings that had stood for centuries. I had come to Jaffa seeking a glimpse of history and the quiet rhythm of daily life, but beneath the city's charm, there was an undercurrent of unease. The marketplace buzzed softly with morning activity. Vendors arranged colorful fruits and spices, while locals moved deliberately, their faces carrying stories of resilience. The mosaic of cultures here was visible in the language, the music that drifted from a nearby cafe, and the aromas weaving together, a reminder that this city was a crossroads of the world. As I wandered through the alleyways, my eyes caught the intricate designs carved into doorways, the echoes of footsteps on cobblestones, and the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore. Yet, amid the beauty there was a tension, a pause in the usual rhythm, like a breath held too long. That afternoon, the sky shifted. Clouds gathered suddenly, softening the sunlight and drawing a muted veil over the city. The wind carried a stillness that was not peaceful, but alert. From my vantage point on a rooftop overlooking the old port, I sensed the quiet before a storm, not one of nature, but of human hearts burdened with fear. The streets grew quieter as the afternoon wore on. Shops began to close their shutters early, and the usual hum of voices softened into cautious whispers. I noticed groups of people gathering in small clusters, their faces reflecting concern but also a quiet determination. From my rooftop vantage point, the city seemed to hold its breath. The old stone walls, weathered by centuries, stood as silent witnesses to countless stories, some joyful, some sorrowful. Today, they seemed to watch over a moment suspended between uncertainty and hope. As evening approached, a distant siren pierced the air, a sound that startled more than it alarmed. People moved with purpose, not panic. The streets emptied gradually, and the lamps along the harbor flickered on, casting pools of warm light on the cobblestones. I walked down from the rooftop, drawn toward the sea. The waves crashed gently against the shore, indifferent to the worries of the city. Standing there, I felt the deep contrast between the eternal rhythm of the ocean and the fragile pulse of human life. In that moment, I understood something essential. The strength of a city like Jaffa lay not just in its stones or history, but in the resilience of its people, their ability to carry on, to find calm amid chaos, and to rebuild with quiet courage. Night fell gently over Jaffa, blanketing the city in a quiet that felt both heavy and fragile. The familiar sounds of laughter and music were absent, replaced by a soft stillness that settled like a whisper. I walked slowly through the streets, mindful of the weight that hung in the air, an invisible tension that connected every corner, every stone. The marketplace, usually vibrant and full of life, was now empty. Stalls stood abandoned, their colors muted under the dim glow of the streetlights. Yet, despite the silence, there was a subtle beauty in the way the shadows danced along the walls, reminders that light could persist even in the darkest hours. I paused beside an old fountain, its water flowing steadily as it had for generations. The sound was soothing, a small comfort amid uncertainty. Around me, the city seemed to breathe, a living entity marked by history, pain, and an enduring spirit. I thought of the people I had seen earlier, the vendors packing up their goods, the families returning home, the strangers who exchanged nods of quiet solidarity. Each carried their own story, their own strength. It was in these everyday acts of care, of resilience, that Jaffa's true heart revealed itself. Though the day's shadows were long, I felt a faint glimmer of hope. The city was holding together, not by ignoring the pain, but by facing it with steady resolve. Morning arrived slowly, with soft light spilling over the rooftops and casting a gentle glow on the ancient streets. The city was still waking, cautious but determined. I moved through the neighborhoods, noticing small signs of life returning. A curtain drawn back, a door opened, a flower placed on a windowsill. Near the harbor, fishermen prepared their boats, their movements steady and practiced. The sea stretched endlessly before them, a symbol of continuity and renewal. The scent of salt and fresh bread mingled in the air, a reminder of the simple joys that persist even when shadows linger. I visited a small garden tucked between stone buildings, where olive trees stood tall and proud. Their leaves shimmered in the morning light, a quiet testament to endurance. Sitting beneath their branches, I felt the weight of history, but also the promise of tomorrow. Throughout the city, people began to gather again, sharing meals, tending to homes, reconnecting. It was not a grand celebration, but a humble affirmation of life. The wounds were present, but so was the will to heal. In Jaffa, the past and present intertwined like the roots of the olive trees, deep, complex, and unyielding. The city's story was one of many chapters, each shaped by those who refused to surrender hope. As the sun climbed higher, casting bright light across Jaffa's rooftops and harbor, I found myself standing once more at the edge of the sea. The water shimmered, reflecting the clear sky, its timeless rhythm steady and sure. The city behind me was alive again, not untouched, but unbroken. The streets held stories of sorrow and courage, silence and solidarity. I understood now that the true strength of Jaffa was not in its ancient stones or picturesque views, but in the people who lived here, those who faced fear with calm, who chose kindness in moments of uncertainty. Walking through the winding alleys one last time, I felt a deep respect for this place and its enduring spirit. Here, history was not just preserved. It was lived, shaped every day by hands that built, healed, and dreamed. Leaving Jaffa, I carried with me the quiet lesson it offered, that even when darkness touches a place, light and hope remain, rooted in community, resilience, and the unspoken courage of those who continue forward. Story 4. October in Shanghai arrived like a gentle sigh, cool breezes carrying the faint scent of autumn leaves and distant rain. The city pulsed with a unique blend of modern energy and ancient tradition. Skyscrapers rose beside old alleyways, while neon signs hummed softly above bustling streets filled with bicycles and pedestrians. I found myself drawn to a local supermarket tucked away between towering buildings in one of the older neighborhoods. It was a place of daily rhythms, where neighbors met briefly among aisles of fresh vegetables, fragrant spices, and neatly stacked goods. The hum of fluorescent lights blended with the soft murmur of shoppers moving with purpose. That afternoon, the supermarket felt like any other. Families picked up groceries, an elderly man carefully examined fruits, and children hovered near the colorful displays of snacks. The air carried a comforting mix of aromas, fresh bread, ripe fruit, and the faint scent of jasmine tea from a nearby vendor outside. As I moved through the aisles, I noticed the subtle signs of the city around me. Posters announcing community events, handwritten notes about market hours, and a small shrine by the checkout dedicated to health and safety. The place was more than a store. It was a thread in the fabric of daily life here. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. A quiet tension settled like a shadow, barely perceptible but undeniable. The rhythm slowed, footsteps faltered, and the light seemed to dim ever so slightly. I sensed that something had changed, not visible but felt deep in the space between people. Though no one spoke aloud, the air was thick with shared awareness. In that moment, the supermarket was no longer just a place of routine. It became a place where the fragility of safety was made clear and the strength of community quietly tested. The minutes that followed carried a peculiar stillness, as if the very air had thickened with unspoken concern. Shoppers moved cautiously, their eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and quiet apprehension. The usual sounds, the rustling of plastic bags, the distant beep of the checkout scanner, were subdued, as though the supermarket itself was holding its breath. I found myself near the entrance, watching the ebb and flow of people entering and leaving. The street beyond bustled with life. Cyclists weaving through traffic, street vendors calling out their wares, and the chatter of passers-by. Yet inside, time seemed to slow, and the usual comfort of routine was replaced by an invisible tension. A group of store employees gathered near the back, their faces composed but serious. They moved with careful purpose, clearing aisles and offering quiet assistance where needed. It was clear that their priority was maintaining calm and safety without stirring fear. Outside, the sounds of the city carried on as usual, a stark contrast to the hushed atmosphere inside the supermarket. The contrast was a reminder of how life continues, complex and unpredictable, weaving moments of peace with those of challenge. In that fragile balance, I felt the strength of human resilience, how a community, even in a place as ordinary as a supermarket, comes together to protect and support each other. It was a silent promise, a shared commitment that no matter what happens, we move forward with care. The evening sun cast a warm glow through the supermarket windows, illuminating the rows of fresh produce and neatly stacked shelves. Outside, the city's skyline glittered as lights began to flicker on one by one. Inside, the atmosphere had gradually shifted from tension back toward calm, though the echo of earlier unease still lingered faintly in the air. I walked slowly along the aisles, observing the faces of the people around me. There was a quiet resilience in their expressions, a determination to carry on with their day despite the weight of what had happened. The elderly woman selecting tea leaves seemed steadier, the young mother gently soothing her child as they waited in line, the store clerks exchanging brief nods of encouragement. In the corner near the checkout, a small notice had been placed, a message from the store management expressing gratitude for everyone's patience and strength. It was a simple gesture, but it carried profound meaning, a reminder that even in moments of difficulty, community and kindness endure. As I paused to reflect, I realized that the true story of that day wasn't about the event itself, but about the way people responded. The shared moments of quiet support, the unspoken understanding between strangers, the steady commitment to safety and care. These were the threads weaving hope through the fabric of everyday life. Shanghai, with all its vastness and energy, felt at that moment like a collection of countless small acts of courage and compassion, each one holding the city together. The night settled over Shanghai like a calm blanket, the city's pulse softening into a quieter rhythm. I lingered near the entrance of the supermarket, watching as the last few shoppers moved through the aisles with deliberate care. Outside, neon signs flickered to life, casting colorful reflections on the wet pavement from a recent drizzle. Inside, the store's usual bustle had been replaced by a gentle hum, a shared moment of reflection and resilience. Staff members carefully restocked shelves, their movements steady and purposeful. Though the day had been marked by an unsettling event, the collective spirit of the community remained unshaken. As I walked toward the exit, I noticed a small corner where people had placed notes and flowers, a silent tribute to the strength and unity shown throughout the day. It was a quiet reminder that even in the face of difficulty, kindness and empathy find a way to shine through. Leaving the supermarket, I stepped out into the cool night air. The city's skyline stretched before me, bright, alive, and full of stories both known and untold. Shanghai was a city that never stopped moving, never stopped growing, but always carried within it a deep well of human connection. In that moment, I felt a profound respect for the resilience that lies within ordinary places and everyday people. It is in these spaces, between the aisles of a supermarket, in the shared glances of strangers, that hope quietly endures. The following morning, the city awoke once again with its usual energy, street vendors setting up their carts, bicycles weaving through traffic, and the scent of steamed dumplings drifting through open windows. The supermarket reopened its doors, welcoming familiar faces and new ones alike. As I walked through the aisles, now brightly lit and orderly, I felt a renewed sense of calm. The shelves were stocked, the signs were clear, and the staff greeted customers with quiet warmth. Life, in its steady, everyday way, was moving forward. Though the memory of the day before lingered in the background, it did not define the present. Instead, it served as a reminder of the strength found in community, the way people come together to support one another, to heal, and to rebuild trust. I paused by the checkout, watching as a young couple shared a smile, a child reached for a snack, and an elderly man carefully selected his groceries. These simple moments carried a powerful message, that safety and kindness are woven into the fabric of daily life, even after moments of uncertainty. Leaving the supermarket, I stepped into the vibrant streets of Shanghai, carrying with me the quiet lesson of resilience and hope. In the heart of the city, amidst its endless movement and change, I saw a truth that would stay with me: the enduring power of human connection to overcome, to heal, and to move forward together. Story 5. October in Tehran settled quietly, the city cloaked in the soft haze of autumn. The streets carried their usual mix of life and history, busy markets filled with colorful spices and fresh fruit, the call to prayer echoing gently from minarets, and the hum of daily routines weaving through the crowds. Yet beneath the surface of this vibrant city, a tension lingered, a weight felt by those who knew its deeper currents. I arrived in Tehran with a heavy heart, drawn by the story of a German-Iranian activist whose courage had stirred both hope and fear across borders. Their name was spoken quietly among friends and strangers alike, a symbol of the struggle for justice and human rights in a place where such voices often faced grave consequences. As I walked through narrow alleys and broad boulevards, I saw the city's contrasts, the ancient and the modern, the hopeful and the cautious. Faces passed by, some carrying quiet determination, others reflecting the burden of uncertainty. It was a city where history was not just remembered but lived daily, in acts of bravery small and large. The news of the activist's execution spread slowly but with undeniable weight. It was a moment that brought sorrow and reflection, a reminder of the fragility of freedom and the power of conviction. I found myself standing at the edge of a crowd gathered quietly in a square, a space filled with silent prayers and shared grief. Though no words were spoken aloud, the presence of those gathered spoke volumes. Their eyes held stories of resilience, of a collective yearning for change that transcended fear. In that stillness, I felt the pulse of a community bound by hope and the unyielding belief in human dignity. The city moved on in its usual rhythm, but beneath the surface, the impact of that day settled deeply. The markets continued to bustle, and children's laughter echoed faintly through the streets. yet an invisible thread of solemnity wove itself into everyday life. I walked through neighborhoods where murals and posters quietly honored those who had stood for justice, their faces a testament to courage that refused to be erased. In cafes tucked away from busy roads, conversations paused when the activist's name came up, a shared acknowledgement of the price of standing up for one's beliefs. It was clear that, though the act of execution marked a tragic end, it did not silence the spirit that had inspired so many. I visited a small community center where people gathered to remember and reflect. Here, stories were shared, not just of pain, but of hope and determination. The activist's legacy was alive in the quiet gestures of solidarity, in the way neighbors helped one another, and in the resolve to keep pushing forward despite the risks. Walking through the city's gardens, I noticed the resilience mirrored in the blooming flowers and sturdy trees, symbols of life's persistence amid hardship. The same spirit seemed to live in the people around me, a quiet strength that could not be broken. Though the loss was profound, the day had become a catalyst, awakening a renewed sense of purpose and connection. I felt privileged to witness this moment of collective resolve, a testament to the enduring power of hope, even in the face of sorrow. The city's skyline, a mixture of soaring modern towers and ancient domes, seemed to hold the weight of generations, each telling a story of endurance, change, and hope. I found myself wandering through quiet streets where the echoes of history met the pulse of the present. The activist's story had become intertwined with the fabric of the city, a reminder of the ongoing struggle for dignity and justice. In a small bookstore, I discovered a collection of poems and writings dedicated to freedom and resilience. The words spoke of courage born from hardship and the belief that even the smallest acts of defiance could ignite change. It was clear that the activist's life had inspired many to find strength in their own voices, to carry forward a message that transcended borders. As I walked beside the river that runs through the heart of the city, I noticed people pausing to reflect, some quietly lighting candles, others simply standing in stillness. These moments of remembrance were not just for mourning, but for honoring a legacy that would continue to shape the future. The atmosphere was one of quiet determination. Despite the risks and the losses, there was a shared commitment to keep the spirit alive, to hold on to hope, to nurture dreams of justice, and to stand together in solidarity. In that shared silence, I understood that true courage is not just in grand gestures, but in the everyday choices to believe in a better tomorrow. The days following the execution were marked by quiet acts of remembrance across the city. I walked past places where candles flickered gently in the evening breeze and small gatherings formed, not loud protests, but calm moments of unity and reflection. People from all walks of life came together, connected by a shared desire for peace and justice. In parks where children played and elders sat on benches beneath towering trees, I saw the resilience of life continuing amid hardship. The activist's story was woven into the city's daily rhythm, a reminder that change often begins in small, steadfast acts of hope. I visited a university campus, where students pinned ribbons and messages of solidarity on notice boards. Their eyes held a mixture of sorrow and resolve, a determination to learn, to speak, and to build a future shaped by understanding and compassion. Throughout the city, I noticed an unspoken agreement to honor the past while moving forward. The spirit of the activist lived on, not in anger or despair, but in the quiet strength of those who choose to believe in progress through peaceful means. As I stood in a crowded square, looking up at the sky slowly shifting from dusk to night, I felt a deep connection to this place and its people. It was clear that even in moments of loss, hope persists, carried gently in the hearts of those who refuse to give up. The city moved forward, as cities do, carrying the echoes of its past and the promise of its future. As I wandered through Tehran one last time, I felt the deep currents of resilience flowing beneath the surface, the unyielding spirit of a people who, despite hardship, continue to seek justice, peace, and dignity. In quiet moments, I reflected on the activist's life and legacy, not as a symbol of tragedy, but as a beacon of hope. Their courage had awakened conversations, inspired change, and reminded everyone that the pursuit of freedom is a journey taken together. The streets, markets, and homes I passed were filled with stories of perseverance. Ordinary people standing up in small but powerful ways. Their collective strength created a tapestry of hope woven through the city's fabric. As the sun set over the rooftops, casting a golden light across the skyline, I understood that true change often begins in these quiet acts, in the hearts of those who believe in a better tomorrow. The activist spirit, carried forward by many, was a testament to the enduring power of hope and humanity. Leaving Tehran, I carried with me the profound lesson that courage and compassion can shine brightest in the darkest times, and that even in loss, there is the seed of renewal. Story 6. October in Utah brought a crispness to the air, the leaves shifting from vibrant green to warm hues of gold and amber. The mountains stood tall against a clear blue sky, a silent witness to decades of change. I found myself drawn to this place, a quiet town nestled among the valleys, where time seemed to carry stories long forgotten, until now. For 50 years, a mystery had lingered in the hearts of the community, a cold case that had remained unsolved, a puzzle with missing pieces that left many wondering. I arrived with the weight of that history on my mind, curious to understand how the threads of the past had finally come together. Walking through the streets, I saw the subtle marks of time. The old diner where neighbors still gathered for morning coffee, the small police station that had witnessed generations of service, and the courthouse steps where justice had been sought for so many years. The faces of the townspeople held quiet resilience, a testament to the patience and hope that had endured. The breakthrough came quietly, almost unexpectedly. Advances in technology and a renewed commitment had breathed life into the decades-old investigation. Files once gathering dust were revisited with fresh eyes, evidence re-examined with new methods, and long-held secrets began to unravel. I stood outside the modest police department as officers and investigators worked through the details. There was no fanfare, only a shared sense of relief and respect. For the truth, for the families waiting for answers, and for the justice finally within reach. In that moment, I realized the power of persistence and dedication. How time, though it can erode memories, can also bring clarity and healing. The cold case was no longer just a chapter in history. It had become a story of closure, courage, and the enduring search for truth. The morning light filtered softly through the windows of the police station, illuminating shelves lined with old files and photographs. I spent time exploring the quiet rooms where detectives once pored over evidence, now revisited with modern technology that breathed new life into forgotten leads. It was a bridge between past and present, a reminder that no matter how much time passes, some stories deserve to be told fully. I walked through the town's familiar streets, imagining the lives connected to this case over the decades. Families who had waited for answers, friends who held memories close, and a community that had never stopped hoping. The local library held archives filled with newspaper clippings and photographs, each one a fragment of a larger story waiting to be understood. What struck me most was the unwavering spirit of those involved, the investigators who refused to give up, and the townspeople who carried the weight of uncertainty with quiet strength. They had endured years of waiting, yet here they were, standing together as the pieces of the puzzle finally fell into place. The breakthrough was not sudden or dramatic, but a testament to careful, persistent work. New forensic techniques uncovered evidence previously unseen, and connections emerged that had once been overlooked. It was a reminder that truth, though sometimes slow to surface, has a way of shining through when given the chance. As I stood on the courthouse steps, I felt the gravity of what this moment meant, not just for the case, but for everyone who had believed in justice. The past and present converged in a powerful way, reminding me that even cold cases can find warmth through determination and care. The autumn air was cool as I wandered toward the edge of town, where memories seemed to linger among the quiet fields and rolling hills. It was easy to forget that beneath the peaceful surface lay a story of pain and hope intertwined, one that had touched many lives across generations. I found myself drawn to the house once owned by the family at the center of the case. Though the home had changed hands over the years, its walls seemed to hold whispers of the past, moments frozen in time, waiting for the truth to set them free. Nearby, the community garden bloomed with seasonal flowers, a symbol of renewal and the gentle passage of time. In conversations with longtime residents, I sensed a deep well of emotion carefully guarded. The memories of that long-ago day remained vivid yet tender, spoken of with respect and compassion. The resolution of the case brought a mixture of relief and reflection, a chance to honor the past while looking toward the future. I visited the local museum, where an exhibit had been quietly arranged to acknowledge the case's place in the town's history. Photographs, newspaper excerpts, and personal mementos formed a narrative of resilience, illustrating how even the coldest of cases could be thawed by patience, science, and human kindness. As the sun began to dip behind the mountains, casting a warm glow over the valley, I felt the profound connection between the past and the present. The solved case was not just an end but a new beginning, a reminder that truth and healing often come hand in hand, no matter how long the wait. The town's autumn colors deepened as I returned to the heart of the community, where the echoes of the past and the promise of the future blended in quiet harmony. Life moved forward, but the story of the cold case had left an indelible mark, a testament to resilience, compassion, and the power of never giving up. I spent time at the local courthouse, where the atmosphere was calm but charged with meaning. The courthouse steps, once a place of uncertainty, now stood as a symbol of closure. It was clear that this moment was more than a resolution of a case. It was a collective healing. Throughout the town, I noticed small signs of remembrance. A bench dedicated to those who waited patiently, a mural capturing the community's spirit, and personal tributes left in unexpected places. These gestures reflected a shared understanding that justice and kindness are deeply intertwined. I met people who had played roles both big and small, the investigators who had worked tirelessly across decades, the families who kept hope alive, and the neighbors who supported one another in silence. Their quiet strength reminded me that behind every headline and file lies a human story, rich with courage and connection. As the day faded, the mountains stood silhouetted against a twilight sky. I felt a profound gratitude for having witnessed a community's journey, from loss to hope, from questions to answers. It was a reminder that even after many years, the light of truth can still break through, guiding the way toward peace. The cool evening breeze carried a sense of calm over the valley as I took a final walk through the town. The streets, bathed in the soft glow of streetlights, held the quiet pulse of lives renewed. The cold case, once a shadow over the community, had transformed into a story of perseverance and hope. I reflected on the countless moments of patience, the tireless efforts of investigators, the steadfast hope of families, and the supportive embrace of neighbors. Together, they had formed a tapestry of resilience that time could not unravel. In the local park, a small gathering had come together to honor the journey, not with loud proclamations, but with thoughtful remembrance, a shared commitment to cherish truth and to carry forward lessons learned. It was a moment that spoke to the heart of what justice truly means: healing, understanding, and unity. As I looked up at the star-filled sky, I felt a deep connection to this place and its people. Their story was a powerful reminder that no matter how long the wait, the pursuit of truth and closure is a light that never dims. Leaving Utah, I carried with me the enduring lesson that hope, courage, and community can solve even the coldest of cases, transforming mystery into meaning and silence into peace. Story 7. October in Paris carried a soft chill, the city's golden leaves swirling gently along cobblestone streets and beneath the iron balconies that line the historic neighborhoods. The Seine glimmered under the fading sunlight, a serene contrast to the weight settling over the city in recent days. I found myself walking along familiar paths, sensing the quiet unrest that had taken hold since the news of the young girl's passing. She was a teenager full of dreams, her life woven into the fabric of Parisian youth. School days filled with laughter, afternoons in cafes, and quiet moments by the river. Her loss rippled through the community like an unexpected shadow, touching hearts in ways words could scarcely capture. As the narrator, I carried both the weight of this story and the responsibility to bear witness to the reverence and respect owed to her memory. The city, often vibrant with music and chatter, felt subdued. In neighborhoods where children once played freely, An unspoken grief lingered, encouraging reflection on the fragility of life and the importance of compassion. Mourners left flowers and notes in quiet corners, small tributes that spoke volumes in their simplicity. I visited the places she had loved, the park where she often walked, the bookshop where she found comfort in stories, and the school that had been her second home. Each spot held memories, a gentle reminder of a young life interrupted but never forgotten. Though the investigation was ongoing, what stood out most was the community's response. United in grief, yet determined to honor her by fostering kindness, awareness, and support. In a city as historic as Paris, where every street tells a story, this was now a chapter marked by empathy and hope. The days that followed were filled with quiet reflection across the city. I wandered through the neighborhoods that had once been alive with her laughter, now marked by a stillness that seemed to ask for understanding and respect. The small cafes, normally bustling with conversation, seemed to hold their breath, as if honoring the memory of a young life gone too soon. I spent time near the Seine, where the gentle flow of water carried a sense of calm amidst the sorrow. Locals and visitors alike paused there, some leaving flowers on the stone banks, others simply standing in silent tribute. The river had witnessed centuries of history, and now it bore witness to this moment of collective grief. At the local community center, I observed how people came together, sharing stories, offering support, and quietly pledging to foster a safer environment for the city's youth. Workshops on kindness and awareness were organized, a tangible effort to turn tragedy into positive action. This response spoke to a profound resilience, a commitment to healing and growth. As I walked the cobbled streets, the architecture around me seemed to whisper stories of strength and endurance. Paris had seen many chapters of hardship, but it had always risen with grace. This moment was no different. The spirit of the city, embodied by its people, was steadfast, anchored by hope and the desire for justice. Though the investigation was delicate and ongoing, what remained clear was the community's dedication to remembering the girl not as a statistic, but as a vibrant soul whose light touched many. In every corner of Paris, her story was honored with compassion, and her memory became a quiet call for unity and care. The city's streets, usually alive with the chatter of everyday life, carried a softer tone as I made my way through neighborhoods that had been touched by this tragedy. In the park where she once strolled beneath towering chestnut trees, I noticed small groups gathered, not in loud mourning, but in quiet remembrance. The gentle rustling of leaves seemed to carry the whispers of her presence, a subtle reminder that she was still part of the city's heartbeat. I visited the school she attended, a place where teachers and students alike wore expressions of thoughtful solemnity. They had come together in silent tribute, creating a space for healing that spoke volumes about the strength found in community. Walls that once echoed with youthful laughter now held stories of compassion, resilience, and hope. Throughout the city, artists and poets paid homage in their own ways. Murals appeared on once blank walls, vibrant yet tender, celebrating life and the importance of looking out for one another. In galleries and small studios, paintings and poems echoed a collective desire to transform sorrow into a meaningful message of care. Walking along the riverbanks again, I found myself reflecting on the nature of loss and the power of remembrance. The flowing water, steady and constant, reminded me that while lives may be interrupted, memories endure, carried forward by those who choose to keep them alive with love and respect. The investigation continued with care, handled by those committed to uncovering the truth while honoring the dignity of all involved. In the meantime, the city embraced a spirit of unity, each person playing a quiet role in weaving a fabric of support that extended far beyond words. The autumn skies over Paris grew softer, painting the city in gentle shades of dusk as the days passed. I found myself walking along the familiar avenues with a new awareness, a sensitivity to the quiet stories beneath the city's surface. It was clear that this tragedy had awakened something deep within the community, a shared commitment to nurture kindness and to protect one another. At the local library, I spent hours exploring journals and articles that captured the evolving journey of the city in response to the event. Beyond the headlines, I found stories of neighbors checking in on each other, youth groups organizing safe walks home, and teachers incorporating lessons on empathy and respect into their classrooms. These everyday acts of care formed a mosaic of hope, a collective effort to transform pain into positive change. I visited the small cafe where the girl had often stopped after school, a place that now served as a gentle gathering spot for remembrance. The owner, quietly preserving her favorite table with a small bouquet, embodied the spirit of a city that honors its past while embracing the future. As night fell, the city lights flickered on, soft, steady, and warm. I walked to a quiet square where a candlelight vigil had been held, a testament to the community's desire to remember with dignity and love. Though the investigation was still ongoing, the unity and compassion surrounding the event were unmistakable. In these moments, I felt the true heartbeat of Paris, not just as a city of history and beauty, but as a living community that stands together through sorrow and hope alike. It was a powerful reminder that healing begins with empathy, and that even in loss, there is the possibility for renewal. The city's pulse seemed to slow as the days moved forward, carrying with them a quiet determination to heal and rebuild. I found myself reflecting on the delicate balance between sorrow and hope, a balance that the community of Paris was navigating with remarkable grace. The girl's story, though marked by tragedy, had become a catalyst for connection, compassion, and change. I walked along the Seine one last time before leaving the city. The gentle flow of the river mirrored the resilience I had witnessed everywhere, the steady movement of life, carrying memories and dreams alike. The flowers left along the banks and the soft glow of lanterns in the windows told a story of a community that chooses light, even in the darkest moments. In the months ahead, I knew that healing would continue, slow and steady, like the changing seasons. The city had begun to weave her memory into its fabric, not as a shadow, but as a beacon for kindness and awareness. Families, friends, and strangers alike had come together to ensure that her legacy would be one of respect, understanding, and hope. As I prepared to leave, I carried with me a profound respect for the strength and compassion that had blossomed in the wake of loss. Paris, a city known for its beauty and history, had shown me its heart, the heart of a community united in care, resilience, and the unwavering belief in a better tomorrow. Story 8. October in Beersheba brought a crispness to the air, as the city moved through its daily rhythm beneath a clear blue sky. The bus station, usually a hub of bustling activity, stood as a crossroads where countless journeys began and ended. That day, as I passed through its familiar corridors, an unsettling stillness lingered, a quiet reminder of recent events that had touched the heart of the community. The incident, though brief, sent ripples of concern and reflection through the city. I observed the way people gathered more closely, offering support and reassurance in subtle ways. A hand on a shoulder, a shared smile, the silent presence of neighbors united in empathy. It was clear that, beyond the immediate moment, a deeper conversation about safety, solidarity, and hope was unfolding. I walked through the station's open plaza, noting the interplay of light and shadow on the stone benches and tiled walkways. The everyday sounds, the hum of engines, footsteps, and distant conversations, had returned, but carried a quieter tone, as if the space itself was taking a collective breath. Local vendors resumed their daily trade, and commuters resumed their travels, each person carrying the weight of the moment in their own way. Around the city, community leaders and residents came together to foster dialogue and understanding. Initiatives to enhance security and promote unity were underway, blending practical measures with a commitment to preserve the openness and warmth that define Beersheba. It was a reminder that resilience is often found in the balance between vigilance and compassion. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the plaza, I felt a profound respect for the spirit of the city, resilient, hopeful, and determined to move forward. The events at the bus station had tested the community, but they had not defined it. Instead, they had awakened a renewed sense of care and connection among those who called Beersheba home. The days following the incident brought a noticeable shift in the atmosphere around Beersheba's bus station. While life continued, a layer of quiet vigilance seemed to have settled over the area. I spent time observing the subtle ways people adjusted, Families walking a little closer together, friends exchanging knowing looks, strangers offering small gestures of kindness. The station itself had become more than a transit point. It had transformed into a symbol of collective resilience. Officials and community members collaborated to improve safety measures, yet they balanced these efforts with a desire to maintain the openness and accessibility that made the station a vital part of daily life. In the nearby streets, local artists painted murals of hope and unity, their vibrant colors bringing warmth to the stone walls. These expressions of creativity spoke to the community's determination to heal and to remember that even in challenging times, beauty and compassion can thrive. I visited a small cafe near the station, where I saw people gathering quietly, sharing moments of reflection and support. Conversations were held without words, carried instead by empathetic glances and the simple act of presence. It was in these shared silences that the true strength of the community became apparent. As evening approached, the city lights began to twinkle, casting a gentle glow over the plaza. I felt a deep sense of connection, not only to the people around me but to the enduring spirit of Beersheba. The shooting had been a moment of hardship, but it had also ignited a renewed commitment to unity, peace, and mutual care. The following mornings, I found myself drawn again and again to the bus station. Each visit revealed new layers of resilience within the community. Children arrived with backpacks, laughter beginning to thread through the air once more, reminding all who watched that life, in its persistence, carries the power to heal. The station's staff worked quietly but tirelessly, their dedication reflecting the city's determination to move forward. Security personnel greeted travelers with a calm presence, offering reassurance without disrupting the welcoming atmosphere that the space was known for. It was a delicate balance between safety and openness, one that spoke volumes about the heart of Beersheba. Nearby, local volunteers organized outreach programs, focusing on building bridges between different groups in the city. Workshops about understanding and peaceful coexistence became regular events, bringing diverse voices into conversation. I attended a few, witnessing firsthand the power of dialogue to mend invisible wounds and sow seeds of hope. The architecture around the station, with its blend of modern design and traditional elements, seemed to embody this spirit of harmony. As I walked beneath arches that framed the sky, I felt the weight of history and the promise of progress converging in one place. In quiet moments, I reflected on the resilience I saw, the way a community can absorb a difficult event and respond not with division, but with empathy and strength. The shooting had been a shock, yes, but it had also sparked a profound reaffirmation of shared values and mutual care. As October deepened, the days grew shorter and cooler, yet the spirit within Beersheba seemed to glow brighter. I noticed that the city was not only healing but transforming. The bus station, once only a place of transit, had become a symbol of resilience and hope, a gathering point for those committed to fostering peace. Community leaders, alongside residents, worked tirelessly to create initiatives promoting safety without sacrificing the openness that made Beersheba special. Public forums and community walks were held, encouraging dialogue and reinforcing the bonds between neighbors. These efforts cultivated a sense of belonging and trust that extended far beyond the station's walls. I spent a reflective afternoon near the station's garden, where people had planted flowers as a tribute to life and renewal. The delicate blooms swayed gently in the breeze, their colors vivid against the stone paths. Watching this simple act of care reminded me that even small gestures can carry profound meaning. The bus station's daily rhythm gradually returned, punctuated by the steady hum of buses arriving and departing, footsteps crossing tiled floors, and the occasional melody of a street musician playing nearby. It was in this restored cadence that I found reassurance, the pulse of a community choosing hope over fear. As I left the station that evening, the sky painted in hues of purple and gold, I carried with me a sense of gratitude. Beersheba had faced a difficult moment, yet it emerged with a renewed commitment to kindness, unity, and resilience, a testament to the strength found in togetherness. The last days of October brought a gentle calm to Beersheba. The bus station stood as a quiet witness to the city's ongoing journey, one marked by healing, connection, and unwavering hope. I spent my final morning walking through the familiar spaces, noticing the renewed smiles of vendors setting up their stalls and the warm greetings exchanged among travelers. The community's response to the shooting had become a powerful story in itself. It was a story of resilience rooted in empathy, a collective effort to nurture peace and understanding in the face of adversity. I saw it reflected in the eyes of those who paused to share a moment of kindness, in the hands that reached out to help, and in the steady footsteps moving forward. Though the event had been difficult, it had also revealed the depth of human spirit, a reminder that even in challenging times, compassion can guide the way. The city's heart, resilient and vibrant, beat steadily beneath the surface, carrying the promise of brighter days ahead. As I prepared to leave Beersheba, I felt a profound respect for this community, its strength, its unity, and its hope. The bus station, once a place of sorrow, had become a beacon of light, reminding all who pass through that from hardship can come growth, and from loss, the courage to heal together. Story 9. October in Spain brought a crisp clarity to the streets of Barcelona, where the vibrant pulse of the city beat steadily beneath the golden autumn sun. The city's winding alleys and bustling plazas had long been a crossroads of culture, commerce, and community. That month, news spread quietly but with great significance. A major law enforcement operation had successfully led to the arrest of key Serbian gang leaders, marking a turning point in the city's ongoing efforts to uphold safety and justice. As I followed the story closely, I found myself drawn into the intricate web of events that had led to this moment. It was a tale not just of crime and consequence, but of collaboration, dedication, and the quiet persistence of those committed to making a difference. The operation was the result of months of careful investigation, teamwork across borders, and the resolve to protect the community from harm. Walking through the streets where the arrests had taken place, I observed how the city was beginning to reclaim its calm. Local shopkeepers resumed their daily routines with a renewed sense of security, and residents moved through the neighborhoods with an air of cautious optimism. The streets, once shadowed by concern, were now lit by hope and the promise of a safer future. Community leaders and law enforcement worked hand in hand, not only to address immediate concerns, but to build lasting bridges of trust. Public forums and outreach programs were launched to engage residents in dialogue, fostering understanding and cooperation. It was clear that the city's response was comprehensive, aiming to heal and strengthen, rather than simply to react. As the sun set over the city's terracotta rooftops, I reflected on the resilience of a community determined to rise above challenges. The arrests, while significant, were but one chapter in a larger story, a story of perseverance, hope, and the unwavering belief in justice. In the days that followed, the city's energy began to shift in subtle but meaningful ways. The sense of relief was tangible among residents and business owners alike, as the presence of law enforcement remained visible yet respectful, emphasizing partnership over intimidation. I spent time walking through neighborhoods where the investigation had focused, noting how the community's spirit was both cautious and hopeful. The authorities had worked meticulously, relying on careful intelligence gathering and collaboration with international partners. Their approach demonstrated a commitment not only to law enforcement but to justice administered with fairness and care. It was evident that this operation was a result of years of dedication, coordination, and a shared goal of protecting the public without compromising dignity. Local organizations stepped forward to offer support to individuals impacted by the gang's activities. They organized workshops, counseling sessions, and community events designed to foster resilience and create alternatives to violence. These efforts highlighted the importance of addressing underlying issues and empowering citizens to take an active role in shaping their environment. As I visited a community center near one of the neighborhoods affected, I witnessed firsthand the power of connection. People gathered to share their hopes for a peaceful future, their presence a testament to the strength found in unity. The walls were decorated with art and messages promoting peace, reminding all who entered of the possibility for change. Walking back through the lively streets as twilight settled, I reflected on the delicate balance between justice and healing. The arrests marked a pivotal moment, but the true measure of success would be in the city's ability to nurture safety, trust, and opportunity for all. As October deepened, the city's rhythm began to settle into a new normal. The palpable tension that had shadowed certain districts gave way to an atmosphere of cautious optimism. I walked along the narrow cobblestone streets, observing the resilience woven into daily life. Children played in parks bathed in soft autumn light, while elders sat peacefully on benches, exchanging quiet smiles, a subtle affirmation that life was moving forward. The police presence remained steady but unobtrusive, a visible reminder of the collective effort to ensure safety without disrupting the harmony of the neighborhoods. I spoke with local shopkeepers who expressed a renewed confidence in their community's future. Their resilience was inspiring, a determination to rebuild trust and prosperity with patience and care. Community programs flourished in the wake of the arrests, focusing on education, job training, and mentorship for youth who might otherwise be vulnerable to negative influences. These initiatives underscored a commitment to long-term change, rooted not only in enforcement but in empowerment. I attended a few of these gatherings, sensing the palpable hope and determination in the air. As dusk fell, the city's lights shimmered like stars coming to life. The intricate blend of cultures and histories that defines Barcelona seemed more vibrant than ever, a testament to its people's ability to embrace challenges with grace. In this moment, I felt deeply connected to the city's spirit, a spirit defined by resilience, unity, and a collective vision for peace. The city's transformation was not instantaneous, but the steady progress was undeniable. I observed how neighbors began to take greater ownership of their shared spaces, cleaning streets, organizing cultural events, and supporting one another in ways both big and small. These acts of care reinforced the sense of community that had weathered uncertainty. Local schools played a pivotal role in fostering this renewed hope. Educational programs emphasized inclusion, respect, and the importance of making positive choices. Teachers and staff worked tirelessly to create environments where every student felt valued and safe. I visited one such school, noticing the bright artwork adorning the halls, symbols of dreams and aspirations that stretched far beyond the present moment. The city government also engaged actively, listening to citizens' concerns and responding with thoughtful policies designed to enhance quality of life. Investment in public spaces, improved lighting, and increased access to social services demonstrated a holistic approach to community well-being. It was clear that the arrests, while significant, were part of a broader commitment to nurturing a thriving and harmonious society. Evenings in the city carried a gentle warmth, with neighbors sharing stories over cups of tea or coffee. I found myself drawn into these quiet gatherings, witnessing firsthand the bonds being strengthened through empathy and shared experience. The narrative of fear was gradually replaced by one of hope and collective responsibility. As October drew to a close, the city felt renewed, not just in its streets and buildings, but in the hearts of its people. The arrests of the Serbian gang leaders had marked a significant chapter, but the true story was one of recovery, resilience, and the power of community. I took a final walk through the neighborhoods touched by these events, observing the steady flow of life, the laughter of children, the chatter of neighbors, and the hum of everyday routines. The city's spirit, though tested, had emerged stronger and more united. The collaboration between law enforcement, local leaders, and residents continued to inspire me. Together, they were creating a future grounded in safety, opportunity, and mutual respect. This collective effort was a testament to the belief that positive change is possible when people come together with determination and care. As the sun set behind the mountains, casting a warm glow over the city, I felt a deep gratitude for having witnessed this chapter of transformation. The story of the arrests was not merely about justice served. It was about a community reclaiming its path, guided by hope and the unwavering strength found in unity. Story 10. October 2024 brought with it a wave of important revelations in Malaysia. News surfaced about the exposure of a network involved in harming the well-being of children, an issue that shook communities yet inspired a united response toward protection and healing. As I followed the developments, I was drawn into the story of resilience, justice, and the tireless work of many who sought to safeguard the future of the nation's youngest. The investigation was the culmination of months of dedicated efforts by law enforcement agencies, social workers, and advocacy groups. Together, they navigated sensitive challenges, prioritizing the dignity and safety of those affected. The operation was marked not by spectacle, but by careful care, a testament to the respect with which the matter was handled. Walking through the bustling streets of Kuala Lumpur, I felt the weight of this moment on the city's collective conscience. Citizens, from all walks of life, expressed a quiet determination to support healing and prevention. The atmosphere was charged not with fear, but with a commitment to positive change. Community centers and local organizations responded swiftly, expanding programs aimed at educating families and children about rights, safety, and support resources. Workshops and outreach initiatives sought to empower those vulnerable to harm, emphasizing the strength found in knowledge and connection. As the sun dipped behind the skyline, I reflected on the importance of vigilance and compassion. The exposure of this network was painful, yes, but it also opened doors to hope and transformation. It was a reminder that even in the darkest situations, there are those who stand ready to protect and nurture, bringing light where it is most needed. In the days following the exposure of the network, the pulse of Kuala Lumpur shifted with a renewed focus on safeguarding children. I spent time visiting community centers and schools, where I observed programs designed to raise awareness about child protection. Educators, social workers, and volunteers moved with a quiet but determined purpose, committed to fostering safe environments. The city's neighborhoods reflected this growing commitment. Public spaces were filled with posters and banners promoting respect, safety, and kindness. The message was clear. Protecting children was a responsibility shared by all. I noticed how people, from shopkeepers to parents, embraced this message with heartfelt sincerity. Authorities continued their work with transparency and care. The investigation unfolded methodically, respecting the privacy and dignity of those involved. It was evident that the goal was not only justice but also healing, both for individuals and the broader community. I visited a local family support center, where counselors offered guidance to those seeking help. The warmth and empathy in the room were palpable. Here, strength was nurtured through understanding, and hope was cultivated through connection. The center stood as a beacon of safety and compassion in a city determined to move forward. Reflecting on these moments, I felt a profound respect for the collective efforts underway. The exposure of the network, while unsettling, sparked a wave of action rooted in love and protection. It was a powerful reminder that through unity and care, even the most difficult challenges could be met with strength. As October advanced, the city's commitment to child protection deepened and broadened. I observed how schools integrated new curricula focused on personal safety and emotional well-being, providing children with tools to understand their rights and seek help if needed. Teachers and administrators worked tirelessly to create nurturing spaces where every child could feel secure. Community leaders and activists organized forums and awareness campaigns, drawing attention to the importance of vigilance and kindness. These gatherings were marked by a spirit of collaboration, where voices from all sectors, education, healthcare, law enforcement, and families came together with a shared vision. I took a quiet walk through a neighborhood park where families gathered to enjoy the afternoon sun. The laughter of children, the gentle conversations of parents, and the peaceful atmosphere stood in contrast to the difficult story behind the headlines. It was a living testament to the city's resilience and dedication to protecting its youngest members. Social services expanded their outreach, ensuring that support reached even the most remote communities. Mobile units traveled to offer counseling and resources, breaking down barriers that might prevent families from accessing help. This commitment to inclusivity was a vital part of the broader effort to build a safer society. Through it all, the city demonstrated that change was not only possible but already underway. The exposure of the network had sparked a movement, not one defined by fear, but by hope, action, and the unwavering belief in the power of care. With each passing day, the strength of the community's response became more apparent. I watched as local organizations joined forces, pooling resources and expertise to create a more comprehensive safety net for children. From workshops in bustling city halls to quiet home visits in suburban neighborhoods, the message was consistent. Every child deserves protection, care, and respect. The media, too, played a responsible role in shaping public awareness. Reporting focused on the importance of prevention and the positive steps being taken rather than dwelling on sensational details. This careful approach helped maintain a climate of hope and encouraged people to engage constructively rather than with fear. I had the opportunity to visit a support group where families shared their experiences and found comfort in one another's presence. The atmosphere was one of quiet strength, a gathering of people bound by a common purpose: to heal, to protect, and to build a safer future. It was a reminder that recovery is a journey best walked together. The government announced new policies aimed at enhancing child protection frameworks, signaling a long-term commitment. These measures included increased funding for social services, stricter oversight, and educational campaigns designed to reach every corner of the nation. The dedication to systemic change was clear and inspiring. As evenings settled over the city, I reflected on the many faces of courage I had encountered. From officials and advocates to everyday citizens, the collective will to confront this challenge with compassion and resolve was unmistakable. In the heart of Malaysia, a movement of protection and hope was growing stronger each day. The final days of October brought with them a renewed sense of purpose across Malaysia. The exposure of the child abuse network, while painful to confront, had ignited a widespread movement towards safeguarding the future. Walking through the streets of Kuala Lumpur once more, I sensed a community more vigilant, more compassionate, and deeply committed to protecting its most vulnerable. Every step of the journey, from investigation to recovery, had underscored the power of unity and care. The voices of survivors, advocates, and everyday citizens wove together a tapestry of resilience. They reminded me that healing is not just about justice, but about restoring hope and nurturing growth. I visited a newly opened center dedicated to child welfare, where programs fostered creativity, learning, and emotional strength. The smiles on children's faces and the calm confidence of their caretakers painted a picture of a brighter tomorrow. Here, the promise of a safer, kinder world was being built brick by brick. Reflecting on these moments, I realized that the exposure of the network was not an end, but a beginning. It had sparked a collective awakening, a call to vigilance, empathy, and enduring action. The city, the nation, and its people were united in their determination to ensure that every child could grow up in an environment of safety and love. As night fell over the cityscape, I felt a profound sense of hope. The shadows cast by past difficulties were slowly giving way to the light of healing, connection, and unwavering care. In Malaysia, a new chapter was being written, one of protection, strength, and the enduring power of community.